Okay, students, welcome to College Algebra Final Exam Review. All right, in this particular case, we're talking about formulas that you need to know for your final. My advice to you is watch this when you can concentrate and just go through this together, and I think you'll get the gist of the formulas and can reduce your frustration level. All right, let's take it a step at a time. Get my pen here. Okay. The first thing that would be helpful is if I have 2 points, x sub 1, y sub 1, and then remember x sub 2, y sub 2, there's a couple things I could do there. The one thing I could do is I could use the distance formula. And remember, the distance formula is the square root of something squared plus something squared, and that is the change in the x's, the change in the x's, and the change in the y's. Okay? Alright, so just you could write that with me here. The next one that you need to know is the midpoint formula. Of course, the midpoint formula is just an ordered pair. Okay, it's an ordered pair. And the first one is the average of the x's, and the second one is the average of the y's. Okay, that should make sense. Now, one more thing that we could use with this situation we have here is determining the slope. The slope is fun. It's rise over what? Rise over run. So y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, so those are some important formulas that you need to know there. Let's talk for a moment about the quadratic. Let me get another color here. All right. Now remember, a quadratic equation has this general form to it. And your mission is to find the values of x, or to find the zeros. And remember, there's a song. Remember how that went? X is equal to negative b plus or minus square root plus or minus square root minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Well, the song wasn't the best, but you get the gist. So I would practice writing that a couple times, and that may help you. The next thing we need to talk about are the equations of lines graphed on the coordinate plane. So let's start with what we already know. Y is equal to mx plus b. Okay, remember, this is the slope, and then this is the y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept is the point where the line crosses the y-axis. All right, now there was another point that we knew, another formula, and that was y minus y1 is equal to the slope times x minus x1. And this was called what? The point slope formula. And so we use a point, x comma x1, y1, and we use the slope, m, and we could write an equation given that information. All right, now let's take a second and go and look at circles for a moment. So when we're talking about circles on the coordinate plane, okay, here's a circle. This is a circle with the center at the origin, and here I can move that circle off the origin. And remember, when I move the circle off the origin, this point right here changes from 0, 0 to h comma k. Now let's review the formula. Okay, the formula is something squared plus something squared is equal to what? R squared. Remember, this was x minus h, and this was y minus k. Okay? Now remember, when the center is on the origin, you just have x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. So remember that. Keep that in mind. All right, that's all I want to talk about on that. I need to go back to the idea of a quadratic function. quadratic function. Remember, this was f of x is equal to this. Now remember, there's another form. Another form would be a times x minus h squared plus k. Now remember over here, if a is positive, it goes like this. If a is negative, it's turned upside down. Also notice that if it's minus a number, it goes to the right. If it's plus a number, it goes to the left. If it's plus k, it goes up. If it's minus k, it goes down. Also remember, if a is less than 1, it's wider. If a is greater than 1, it's more narrow. Okay? Now we also know from over here that the vertex is h comma k. All right, that makes it easy. Now what if we have a quadratic given to us in this form? You need to remember the little formula for the vertex. The vertex is h, which is negative b over 2a, and then the k. So negative b over 2a, negative b over 2a, and that will be a way to do that. I'll show you just a real very quick example of what we're talking about. Let's say I had a function here and I want to find the vertex. Well, we already know it's opened up, so we know that much. Negative b over 2a, that's going to be 2 over 2, which is 1. So if I plug a 1 in for the x here and here, okay, that would be 1 minus 2, which is negative 1, plus 3 is 2. So the vertex is 1 comma 2. Hope that helps. Now there are some other formulas that you need to know. If you took test 4, you just got done with these, but so this is the general formula for, this is a specific formula for the idea of an exponential function. An exponential function, okay? Now notice that this function increases this way, and notice that there's a horizontal asymptote at y is equal to 0. Keep that in mind. Also, we could take this curve right here, we can move it up, down, left, right, and all kinds of ways. And so the way to understand the algebra of that is to just notice that I could say y equals a times 2 to the x minus h plus k. And again, I could flip it, I can move it to the right and to the left and move it up and down. So please be mindful of that. Now another function that we need to be aware of is y is equal to a log base b of x. Now remember how that function looked. That function was really the inverse. It was the inverse of an exponential. And that function, let me pick another color. I'm going to try to pick another color here, okay? So that function went like this. Okay? Remember, it kept on going down, and so there was a vertical asymptote here, x is equal to 0, and there was an x-intercept, x is equal to 1. Now remember, whenever you want to find a y-intercept, you just plug 0 in for x, okay? And find the y. That would be an easy way to find the y-intercept. And notice in this function there is no y-intercept. So keep that in mind. Alright. Let's see. Let's move to another color here. We'll just pick I don't know, how about that color? Let's talk a little bit about money and the formulas. First of all, let me take just the very general exponential formula. Okay, so A is equal to the initial amount of something times e to the kt. If it's growing, k is positive. If it's decaying, k is negative. So, like, here's an example. Some bacteria grows at this particular using that particular formula. Notice k is positive, and I'm starting with 20. Okay, so what if I said find the amount of substance at 10 units of time. I'm just going to take my calculator and go 20e, use a little power key, 0.2 times 20. Okay, please make sure you know what you're doing with the calculator and that you remember your units. That may help you. All right. Now, let's talk about money for a moment. So here we have A is equal to P times 1 plus R over N to the NT. Okay, one more time. Now remember, this is the amount of initial money. R is the interest rate as a decimal, okay? And N is the number of times you're compounding in a year. All right, one more time. What is N if it's quarterly? Okay, it's 4. What is N if it's monthly? It's 12. Now, I gave you some advice on how to do these problems. The first one was to read. The second one was get the facts out. The next one is to write the formula down properly. And then I plug the values in, and then you could use the calculator. That is a strategy that a lot of people find helpful. So please keep that in mind. Now, as we finish here, let me pick another color here. Okay. As we finish here, be mindful that you really got to be good at converting from exponential to logarithmic. So 2 cubed is equal to what? 8. How do I say this? I say this log base 2 of 8 is equal to 3. Now, I really did a big deal about that, and I had some videos on that, and that would be a very helpful thing. So, having said all of that, okay, I would urge you to go through this video. It's not too long, and just copy down those formulas while I do that. So, Mr. Staples, what advice would you give me? This is very easy. Review this a couple times, and then when you get to your final exam, okay, and you have a blank sheet of paper, before you even start on your final, copy down some of these formulas you already know, okay? You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. It didn't take long to do this part right here. I would write them down because it kind of gets it out of your brain, and then you're going to just work on your final. You're just going to work on your final. And if you get stuck, you could go back to here. And if you think of another formula, you could just add it to here. So use one scratch piece of paper and say formulas on it. And that may be a piece of advice that would help you. It's not going to be the end of the world if you don't memorize everything. So don't put too much on that. But at the same time, you do need to recognize you have a responsibility here as a student in college algebra to get this done. On my face-to-face classes, I don't put a lot of formulas on there. In my other classes where the students got to memorize a whole lot more, I do put some formulas on the board, but in this particular class, it's the least bit. So make sure that you do a good job on that, and that will help you. So I do hope that the formula help is going to be something that will benefit you. Best wishes.